Hello and welcome to Arts Alive Books. Joining me in the studio tonight is author Catherine Fox. Catherine was educated at Durham and London universities, and she has a degree in English and a PhD in theology. She currently teaches creative writing at Manchester Metropolitan University. And Catherine is the author of numerous novels such as Angels and Men, The Benefits of Passion, Love for the Lost, and Unseen Things Above. And these novels explore the themes of the spiritual and the physical with insight and humour. Later on in part 2 of the show, we'll be visiting Right Blend, an independent bookshop in Waterloo. But first of all, Catherine Fox. Catherine, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming along.
Good to be here.
So we're going to talk a little bit later on about your current venture, which is an extraordinarily sounding blog. But do you want to tell us a little bit, first of all, about your background and how you got into writing?
Well, to be honest, I was one of those precocious little girls that always wanted to be a novelist. I spent my time when I was 10 writing novels furiously, to the point where one of my teachers actually said to me, you know, you can't spend your whole life writing novels.
We've heard that before,
I like to think
yeah.
I proved her wrong. So really, as long as I can remember, I've been making up stories, and I think it's an extension of playing, which is something all children do, but the difference was that I wrote them down and just got into the habit of it, which I've never shaken off.
And you combined this with your interests in English literature and theology. Do you want to tell us a bit about that side?
Yes, I think being a writer was probably the only real ambition that I've consistently had. I think I also wanted to be a ballerina, but I'm far too big for that. So it seemed to me the obvious thing was to read English at university. And at that time, there really weren't any courses in creative writing. So the next best thing was to study English literature and write on the side, as it were. And after I finished my first degree, I'd become quite interested in the interface between theology and literature. And I was a student at Durham, and at that time that was quite a big research field. So I strayed into the theology department at that point. And I think if I'd known how difficult that was going to be, I probably wouldn't have had the courage. And I slogged on and finished that thesis. But really my heart was still in writing novels.
Yeah.
But I didn't let myself write my first novel until the thesis was finished, because I knew I would never finish the thesis.
I want to come back and talk a little bit more about the theology side in a bit, but
Yeah,
do you
sure.
think that your practice benefited or not from not having a kind of formal training in creative writing, of which there's so much around at the moment?
Yes, there seems to be two things going on. There's qualifications in teaching creative writing, which I think are very sound and lots of very good practice. But on the whole, students coming to universities to learn creative writing, if all the staff are theoretical lecturers in the art of teaching creative writing, then at some point the students are going to be saying, well, how come you've never got anything published? So what university departments very much like is to have practitioners and to have published novelists and poets and playwrights on their books. Because I think you come at it from a different angle. Knowing what it feels like to be in the process of writing a novel and hopelessly stuck. Yeah. So you can provide some kind of almost fellowship along the way of becoming a writer for your students, that if you were simply a very highly qualified theoretician, you might not be able to bring that perspective. I think we need both, really.
Absolutely, yeah, I would agree entirely. So the novels themselves, they tend to be quite kind of ideas-led, don't they?
Well, they sound like it. They sound like it, but in fact, the characters are that's what drives them. I have my ideas when I set out. I have my sort of vague plots. I'm not one for chapter by chapter breakdowns. I wish I were. That'd be so much simpler. But I suppose that takes some of the fun out of it. So my ideas are this is what's going to happen. This is the crux. This will help open out this particular theme I'm really obsessed with, about maybe healing and forgiveness. So we need something to go wrong. So okay, this couple have an illicit affair, and then they can be healed and forgiven or whatever. And then when it comes to it, I think, you know what, they wouldn't. They wouldn't actually have an affair.
Yeah.
So the ideas are always embodied through the characters, and as I get to know the characters better, they shape what happens in the book. It's a strange process, but very exciting.
It is a strange process. I mean, it's a constant trade-off then, isn't it, between kind of some kind of idea or structure that you're trying to realize, but to give the characters some kind of validity and life.
Yes, I think it's
well.
sort of pondering the big themes rather than trying to think, how can I manipulate the narrative to get my point across? The minute you're doing that, you're in danger of being on a soapbox and just using the characters as kind of puppets. This is what Catherine Fox secretly thinks, rather than, when it's going well, the characters have a real dignity and integrity that I wouldn't want to kind of manipulate. That's strange, because you do end up thinking of them as real people.
Tell us a little bit about your current project and the blog. This sounds
yes,
fascinating.
Now, if I can just wave the book. This is volume 1 in what I'm calling the Linchester series. Linchester being a completely fictional diocese in the Church of England. And this project arises out of my deep longing to be a Victorian novelist and to write serialised novels that people are hanging on my every word and waiting for the next extract. And also to have the liberty to, as a narrator, to stand in the foreground of my work and say, dear reader, I hope you will like this character. Bear with them, they're a bit drunk. But, you know, stay with them and you will come to sympathise and see why they're doing what they're doing. And some people really hate that, but it was very much a feature of the Victorian novel that the narrator would address the reader directly. So I wanted to do that as well as the serialised aspect of it. And it seemed to me that a blog offers a really good sort of modern twist on that serialising process. So that's what I set out to do. I kind of describe it sometimes as the Archers for the Church of England. So it looks back on the week that's just happened in the church year. So maybe it's I don't know, Advent Sunday, and they're getting all the candles out in the cathedral, and the choir are practicing. And so I would weave that into the book, and also simple things like, what was the weather doing last week? And what if there's some big political event that I know my characters will be talking about, then that will be there as well.
And you have an audience for this, so people are
Yes,
engaging with it on a regular
and
basis.
That's really exciting. It can be a bit scary as well, because they know the next episode is going to be there at 7:30 on a Sunday night, and I'm still there at 5:30 going, another 500 words, I don't know what I'm doing. So that's a really good discipline. But then it's just wonderful to get the response of the readers sort of in the moment, that they will tell me if they like the characters and what the characters are doing, and they'll also tell me if they disapprove, and they'll say, no, you can't let Jane end up with the Archdeacon, she's much too grumpy, he's too nice, find him another woman or a man or whatever. And the other thing that people do is tell me if I've made a mistake. I seem to be followed by an awful lot of pedants. So if I've got the wrong day of the week, or I've got the wrong colour of candles, they'll say, oh, you do realise. So it's had a really good copy edit on the job for free. So that's, I flounce a bit if people point out my mistakes, but I am grateful.
It strikes me as a kind of particularly positive and enabling use of the technology.
Yes,
it has such kind of bad press a lot of the time.
Yes.
That if you're using it in this kind of creative way and engaging people.
I am, and there's some sense in which it's kind of crowdsourced. If I hit a point where I don't really know something and it's not easy to Google, so for example, there's this particular invented character who is a priest. What type of vestments would they wear for this occasion? You can't Google that because Google's not that clever, but Twitter is that clever. So if I say, what would Father Wendy, as she's called, what would she wear to take a midweek communion service? Then I just sit back and I'm followed by a lot of vicars. I'm afraid it's slightly tragic. They will all wade in and tell me exactly what she'd wear. And the answer is oatmeal cassock alb.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
And you're still engaging with the kind of controversies of the day and
Yes,
hoping that people will...
Yes, I am. What I try to do is identify certain tricky processes in the Church of England, or the current hot potatoes. So the obvious candidates there are women bishops, equal marriage, and something that's there under the surface the whole time, the whole question of safeguarding of children and how we manage historic abuse. So those are among the most controversial things that are making the headlines about the church at the moment. And that's where the narrative goes, which means it can be quite uncomfortable. And I need to be quite careful that I've sort of abstracted these things from their real settings and from real people, and then set them going in my sort of fiction laboratory, which is this fictional diocese.
Well, it sounds absolutely fascinating.
A bit scary.
I hope lots of people tune in and start kind of telling you what coloured cassocks the priest should be wearing.
Maybe.
So thanks very much. Please stay with us for part 2 when we visit the bookstore, Right Blend. But for now, thanks very much, Catherine Fox.
Thank you.
Right Blend is a new bookshop and coffee shop based in South Road, Waterloo. Aside from the wonderful books, the coffee shop is a great place to gather your thoughts, to rest, contemplate life, just to hang out with others and read a book, or stare out the window, or to study and to eat delicious cake. We dropped in recently to find out more.
Well, welcome to Right Blend, our bookshop and coffee shop in South Road, Waterloo. My name is Bob Stone. We set the bookshop up in May of this year, with the idea being that nothing goes better together than a good book and a good cup of coffee. We're establishing ourselves as a cultural hub for the area. We're organising poetry nights, creative writing workshops. We've held a comedy night. We've had 2 music nights, one featuring Alberto Sanna and Frank Cottrell Boyce, and another featuring the South Band Attic Band. Of course, we also invite authors in to do signings. Very shortly, on Halloween, in fact, we have Pugalugs coming in to sign copies of their new book, and they'll be bringing 2 pug dogs with them as well, which apparently are going to be dressed in Halloween costumes. So, perhaps we could take a look at the rest of the shop.
Hello folks, my name's Tony Higginson. I used to work for Pritchard's in Formby, then I started my own bookshop just called Formby Books because we stayed in Formby. Sadly that had to close in June due to high street constraints, rent and rates, which was a shame because it had been great fun. Now I run my own company called Beyond Books Media, and I specialise in book events, but I'm branching out into other cultural activities. I'm working alongside a well-known local watercolour, portrait, life artist, a couple of musicians, several authors still obviously, and I'm quite lucky because I'm here today at Right Blend in Waterloo. I'm friends with the owner Bob and Sally Ann, his business partner, and you know they're giving me a great platform to bring cultural events to their wonderful setting.
This is the children's book section of the shop, which is, to us, probably the most important part of the shop. All the children who become readers now will hopefully be customers for life. We've recently been lucky enough to be given a grant from the James Patterson Fund. James Patterson has very kindly offered to donate £250,000 in all to independent bookshops to support children's reading, and we applied and were delighted to be able to get a grant. What we're going to do with this is put a partition wall up at the back of the shop to create a storage area. But uniquely for us, we're going to be putting up a mural which has been painted by local artist Holly Bushnell, who did the pictures that are behind me. It'll become a real feature of the shop and hopefully encourage a lot more children to come in, start reading, pick up books and continue reading for the rest of their lives.
But, you know, my role is to engage with the media, find cultural activities and bring them here and to other places. I'm quite lucky because I do 2 evenings for Radio Merseyside on the Linda McDermott show, 10 o'clock on a Monday and Thursday evening. So that's a nice way of being able to bring a bit of bookshop culture, you know, to the media. And I do my own show on Sunday mornings for HCR, Holton Community Radio, 92.3 FM with Sally Ann. We do a 3-hour children's book show and we, you know, dip into the best of what's out there for children every week, take turns at reading it, doing the silly voices. It's all great fun.
Something that we're very keen to support in our children's section are books by independent authors. We've had several events recently with local and national independently published children's authors. We recently did an event with Jude Lennon, whose book The Dragon of Allerton Oak's been selling really well. We also invited an author from Birmingham called B.B. Taylor, who brought with her a raccoon, a baby fox, and the biggest owl I've ever seen in my life. Her books are all about the animals, and she brings the animals with her wherever she goes. She's coming again in December, on December the 18th. She's coming back, so that's something we're very excited about.
The idea with working alongside Bob and Sally Ann at Right Blend is to do mainly evening events. So we're doing a monthly poetry night. We will always find a performance poet to go first. Then we run a bit of an open mic afterwards. Sally Ann and I are running a creative writing course on a Monday evening. So if there's any would-be writers out there, then they need to get along on a Monday evening. What else have we got? We're doing an art class on Tuesday evenings with Margaret Young, who's used to be an artist in residence at the Blue Coat Chambers in Liverpool. So every Tuesday, 7 till 9, she's alternating. This Tuesday she did a life drawing class and she had some A-level students and 4 or 5 members of the public all spent 2 hours with a real life model. Next Tuesday she's just doing standard portrait sketching. But if people are into the arts, then, you know, they need to get in touch. You know, what we're aiming is to branch out and offer these things in other venues in the Northwest as well.
Author events are a big part of the work that we do here. We constantly try and invite authors of quality to come and do talks and do signings. We recently had a very successful event with Liverpool author Claire Coombs, who brought 60 people, which we just about managed to fit in. Coming up very shortly, we are really excited that Tom Cox is going to be coming along. Tom has a massive following online with his My Sad Cat posts on Facebook, and he has 4 books out. He's coming along, and that event was pretty much sold out overnight. Coming up also in December, we've got the classic Everton centre-forward Bob Latchford coming. Bob Latchford was famous for being the first player to score 30 goals in one season, and very few players have actually matched that. So on December the 3rd, Bob will be here to sign copies of his new autobiography. Jude Lennon, of the Dragon of Allerton Oak fame, is coming back again in November to do a Christmas storytelling session. When she came last, she had an audience of children absolutely enthralled in her stories. I've never heard the place so quiet and yet be full of children at the same time. So there are plenty of events to look forward to and more coming all the time. Barely a day goes by when we don't get contacted by somebody who'd like to come and do an event with us.
So loads of great events. You know, the thing which, you know, this sort of exposure helps with is getting the public aware that there's great things happening near where they live. You know, we're not far from Liverpool here in Waterloo, just 15 minutes from Central Station to Waterloo Station, and, you know, you've got a lovely setting. You know, we can get 30 or 40 people upstairs for talks and activities. Downstairs, as you saw with Bob, the owner, is a huge space really. We've got quite a few talks coming up. We've got crime evening, comedy evening. We've already done one of those. Got another one of them coming up. People put either Beyond Books Media or Right Blend into Facebook or Google generally, you'll get what we're doing. And we want you all to be part of it. It's nice to be able to be a catalyst between someone who's spent some time and effort getting good at something, and then we act as like an interactor for them, contacting the media. I go around the schools and do introductory talks. Obviously, we send newsletters out to them. Get the local papers to come along and interview people.
You just happen to have joined us on the first day of Books in My Bag. It's an annual event designed to celebrate independent bookshops.
Obviously, one of the other things I do is I'm part of the Formby and Crosby Viking Living History Society. Myself and several of the guys and girls get dressed up in full Viking gear, and we go out and about and do Viking activities. Some of you may have been lucky enough to come up to Formby a couple of weeks ago when we had a fantastic day. Weather was utterly fabulous, and there were about 2,000 people there. And we had the long ship there to pray, all dressed up, and we had a fab time. Recently we've been in Chester and Stockport, but sadly the Viking season, it runs April to October. So if you're interested in living history and the Viking period, track me down about that, and we'll happily bring you into the fold, and we go out and do talks and things. Obviously the other thing really, as we are in Right Blend at the moment, folks out there, make a little trip, come and support a local bookshop with a coffee shop built in. It's a great cultural hub. People want these things, so come and join in. The cakes and the coffee are fantastic, and Bob and the team downstairs have got loads of author events they're organising, as well as the ones I'm helping them with in the evenings. So you want a bit of culture, you want to meet some nice people, you can't really do better than come along to Right Blend in Waterloo, right in the middle of South Road, very easy to find.
In these days where people are buying more and more online, it's still essential that people support their local bookshops. So anytime you want, please feel free to come and join us for a cup of coffee and a good read.
If you have any comments or suggestions for the show, please do contact us at artsalive@baytvliverpool.com, and we look forward to hearing from you. See you on the next edition of Arts Alive Books. Good night.